Instagram to go live. There's Instagram. Instagram is live now. We are connected. Facebook on my right, Instagram on my left. Facebook, you already see the topic. Y'all know what we're talking about here today. And let me make sure Instagram knows what the topic is, what we're talking about here today. Some things that people might have missed when it comes to Michael Jordan. But we're going to get into that. I'm explaining exactly why I'm talking about this, where it's coming from, and understand that what I'm going to share with you here today is not something you would have got from anybody else. What I'm going to give you here today, you would not get from anyone else. Nobody else is going to put it out there the way that I put it out there, say it the way that I'm going to say it, and come from the angle that I'm going to come from. And that's why you can't get this stream anywhere else. That's why there's only one Working Your Game University. So as y'all come in, tell me your name and location in the comment section, and we're going to get to it very shortly. We got Arison Paris checking in from Germany. Shout out to Germany with the first comment. So we are already international. We got BRHM Vibes. What's good? With the second comment. Y'all come in, tell me your name and location. Facebook, please do not be shy. I know people be watching on Facebook, but people don't leave comments as often on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook right now, leave a comment, tell me your name, tell me your location as y'all check in. Everybody else, as y'all come in, Instagram, you already know. Tell me your name and location. We're getting started in 60 seconds, everybody. We are getting started in 60 seconds. I'm going to tell everybody what the topic is. I'm going to explain why the topic is the topic. I don't just give you the topic. I tell you why I'm talking about it. Then I give you a brief understanding of what the topic is going to be about. Then I give you the topic. Then I'm going to take all your questions. Everybody's going to leave here 100% satisfied. That's the one thing that I guarantee. Vicicious, what's going on? As y'all check in, tell me your names and locations over in the comment section. We're going to get to it in a minute. We get into it in less than 30 seconds. Whoever's here is here. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is to be forgotten. Christine, OPPAI, I don't know what that means, but Christine, thank you for checking in over on Facebook. My name, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, former 9-year professional basketball player. Ibrahim from Philly was good. Former 9-year professional basketball player, author of 25 books, creator of the whole Work on Your Game philosophy, brand, and framework. I published over 7,000 YouTube videos, 7,000 articles, 1,500 podcast episodes. I've done over 1,000 of these live streams. I've created over 200 programs, courses, and products that I have and do make available for sale. I've done 4 TED Talks. I do a lot of things, and long story short, but it's not about me here today. What we're talking about here is why there are some things. Let me back up. Ricky from Buffalo was good. Let me make sure I shout out a couple more people. Chris from Vancouver just checked in. We got Kyle Jones checking in from AUS. I'm guessing that's Australia. Shout out to Australia. The reason why I'm talking about this subject here today, y'all see the topic, and Instagram is in the pinned comment, Facebook, y'all see the topic right there, is tonight, everybody knows, if you know anything about sports, you know ESPN and Netflix is putting out this Chicago Bulls / Michael Jordan documentary. Ryan from Virginia checking in, putting in this documentary about Michael Jordan and the Bulls' last run as a championship team in the 1998 season. Some of y'all were old enough to remember that season. Some of you were not. But either way, everybody's going to be watching it. And, of course, a lot of people are going to be talking about it. It's 10 parts, so they're stretching this out over 5 weeks. They're putting out 2 episodes a week every Sunday for 5 weeks. So we get the first 2 today, then the next two every Sunday. I'll probably catch the rest of it. I'll catch it sometime during the week. I ain't staying up that late to watch this. But I wanted to talk on this topic right here. Some things that a lot of people should have gotten from Michael Jordan's example, because everybody knows who Jordan is. Of course, even if you're not old enough to remember him, the player, you remember that, you know, the crying meme, and of course you know the Jordan gear, you know the Jordan sneakers, you know who Michael Jordan is, you know the Kobe versus LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate. So with this documentary coming out, is a perfect timing today for me to drop what I want to talk about here today. Is the things that I think people need to understand, the standards that Michael Jordan set, that go beyond the surface level stuff that a lot of people know about. So this is not about score a whole bunch of points and win every game so you get the championship. I mean, we know that he did that. It's not about build a brand out of yourself, because obviously we know that he did that. There's not anything that would be on the normal beaten path of what somebody would point out or what you get from Michael Jordan, because if it was, then I wouldn't be here talking about it. It'd be no point in talking about it. I am not here to argue whether who's better between LeBron and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. The answer is Michael Jordan anyway, in case anybody was wondering. But we're not here to argue that. What we're here to talk about is some things, again, that if you are paying attention, and even if you weren't, you're going to know by the end of today, because just pay attention to what I'm saying. that you should learn from Michael Jordan that is the real standard that he set, that I think some people kind of got lost in translation over the years through what he did. They kind of see the surface result of the things that he did, but they don't understand the underlying reasons behind what he did. Me personally, I did a masterclass called Virtual Mentors. I do this Virtual Mentors episode where I talked about people because people always ask me, Dre, who are the people that you look to or people that you see as mentors to yourself? And my virtual mentors, I've done 5 of them, 5 virtual mentors episodes. It was Sean Puff Daddy Combs, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, Sean Jay-Z Carter, Damon Dash, and Michael Jordan. Those are only 5 people I ever did a virtual mentors episode on. You get access to all of them at that link, Work on Your Game University, or Facebook is up above. And the reason why I wanted to do, I already told you why I'm doing the one on Jordan, but the things about Michael Jordan being a virtual mentor. Again, I don't know Michael Jordan, never met him, never sat down and broke bread with him or nothing like that. But there are things that I took from his example, and I've read every book about Michael Jordan. I've read it. I used to watch, those of you, again, who are old enough, you remember when they used to have the Michael Jordan tapes, like those VHS tapes. It was Michael Jordan's Playground, Come Fly With Me, Rare Air, and it was these VHS tapes they would put out about Michael Jordan. There were probably 4 or 5 of them that came out. I used to have those tapes. I remember when he put out his first book. It was called For the Love of the Game. And it was like this big like picture type book, but it had writing in it. So a lot of the stories that are going to be in this Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan told those stories in that book, which came out in like 1999. And again, any of you who's old enough to remember, who knows what I'm talking about, you might know about this. I think most people do not. But it'll be really fun to get everybody to see it and hear all this stuff, whatever they're going to share in the series. But anyway, let's get to our topic here today, or deeper into the topic. We already on the topic of the things that you should have took from Michael Jordan that maybe you missed while you were looking at the surface level things that most people talk about when they talk about Michael Jordan. Number one thing that you need to remember is that the success of the individual is driven by the success of the group. And this is something that when you look at somebody like Jordan, I mean, Michael Jordan, before he came around to the NBA, the star guys were Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Before Jordan had came around, a guard wasn't winning MVP of the NBA Finals. That wasn't happening. Nobody had done it. Nobody had really done it, unless you kind of want to count Magic in some way. I'm not sure he had even got it, but I think he had. But Magic was like 6'9". As a guard, perimeter-based guy, 100%, Michael Jordan, he was the first one to really start doing it and make it into a thing. And then, of course, he scored all the points. He had his own sneakers. He had the Gatorade commercials. He had this big brand. He was making way more money off the court than he was making on the court. And a lot of people looked at that as, all right. And after Michael Jordan came around, those of you who are basketball fans, you know what happened next. There became this new wave of players who grew up watching Michael Jordan. They saw what Michael Jordan did, so they came up thinking they got to do what Jordan does. I got to score a bunch of points. I got to make sure I get my money. I got to make sure I'm the man on my team. If I'm not being the man, then I got a problem. They didn't want to be a team-based player. But what a lot of people don't understand is that Michael Jordan, he was able to blend in a masterful way, better than anybody I've seen before or since, to blend not only getting his personal shine on, which we got to say that he did, but at the same time blending that into the success of the group. Michael Jordan, you never watched a Michael Jordan game and said, all right, Michael Jordan's is going for his stats tonight. Now, there's some players who play in this league today, play ball today, that we watched them play. I'm like, all right, it ain't no way this dude didn't know how many rebounds he needed for a triple-double. He was obviously going for it. Or this guy talking about how he thinks he should have won MVP because it was a narrative against him with his stats and all the things that players are talking about, and people getting mad because they're not getting the same type of endorsement deals, they're not getting the same type of attention. You got players demanding trades when they ain't even won a playoff series. And I'm like, all right, they think that they're getting what Michael Jordan did. They're like, well, I got to win, right? I got to build my legacy and win. But understand, Michael Jordan's legacy was not, oh, I got to do everything for myself personally, just think about me and then get the winning behind that. No, it was get the winning up front. In the process of getting the win, I'm going to do the things that I'm going to do that is going to help the team, but also is going to make me look good at the same time. But I don't think that was ever his agenda. I don't think Mike ever went into a game like, all right, I got to make sure I get certain stats. I got to get 5 rebounds. I got to make sure I score 30 points. I got to make sure I get a highlight. He wasn't playing like that. He played to win the game. He just happened to be good enough, skilled enough, talented enough, and the team around him was set up in enough of a way that he was able to get some personal shine at the same time. But a lot of people these days, and this is in sports and outside of sports, seem to be so driven by getting their own personal shine that they forget that the main objective is to win. The main objective is to succeed in anything that involves a team. It is not about any one individual person. And even Jordan, as much as he won, as much stats as he put up, as many accolades as he accumulated, whenever people tried to point out how great he was personally, he always brought it back to, this is a team accomplishment. This is a team thing. He says, like, if you're going to bring up Michael Jordan, you got to bring up Scottie Pippen because he was there with every championship. You got to mention Phil Jackson because he coached this team. And he gives credit to the role players, to his teammates, because he was always a team-based dude, even though he had all these individual stats. But a lot of people saw what Jordan did. They forgot about the team focus, and they said, oh, well, let me do the individual stuff that Jordan did. But they didn't do the team stuff that Jordan did. Therefore, this is why it's been, 30, damn near 40 years since Michael Jordan came into the league, and nobody has come close to doing what he did in the way that he did it. The only person we could say came close was Kobe, but even Kobe went through a selfish period where he ran his best teammate off the team just so he could prove he could do it by himself, because he was thinking, all right, let me do a little bit of what Jordan did, but that wasn't quite what Jordan did. Jordan didn't run his best teammate off the team so he could prove he was the man. He was already the man. So Kobe, I guess he wanted to make sure he got a chance to prove it, and he wasted a few years of his career trying to prove it, and I guess he kind of sort of proved it. Then he got a good teammate again, and he started winning again. But anyway, the point that I'm making here is the game, if you're playing a team sport, if you're in business is a team sport. If you play an actual sport and there's a team, it's always about winning is the number one priority. It's never about you individually. And any of you who's played a sport or been in business and you had somebody on your team who was all about themselves, all about their personal shine, all about making themselves look good, they're what we call a cancer to the team. A cancer, y'all know what cancer does. Like it starts as one little cell, and then it starts spreading. It starts multiplying and accumulating and spreading throughout the whole organism to the point that it destroys the whole thing from the inside out. That's what happens when you have a person on a team who is more focused on themselves individually than they are on actually helping the team be successful. And a lot of people try to emulate Michael Jordan's personal accolades without understanding that the reason he got the personal accolades is because he was taking those actions driven by the desire to get team accolades. They didn't know that part, so they was just going for self. In a team sport, it doesn't work. You become a cancer. Everything falls apart. The organization rots from within. And I want y'all to understand something else. If you're on the team and you're not the guy or the girl, you're not the main person, you're not the CEO, you're not the head person calling the shots, you're not the player who gets the ball every time. Maybe you're a role player coming off the bench. Maybe you just are supposed to grab rebounds or spot up in the corner and make threes. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with playing your role, because there can only be one man or woman on every team. Everybody cannot be the man. Some people got to be okay with playing their role and playing their position and just doing the job that is asked of you to do, because again, it's not about what you get, it's about what the team gets. If the team gets enough success, everybody's going to get shine off of it. I mean, look at the Chicago Bulls. Those of you who are old enough to remember, look at the Chicago Bulls. Everybody who was on the Bulls, when they left the Bulls, got more money with another team, the people who kept playing, than they would have got had they not played with Michael Jordan. Because they were on that winning team, they had this sheen of winning on them, so another team was interested in them. So Scottie Pippen got paid after he left the Chicago Bulls. Steve Kerr went to Portland and he went to the Spurs. He won, I think 2 more championships after that. Phil Jackson went and coached the Lakers and he won more championships. Phil Jackson proved that he was good. Horace Grant got paid. He left after the first three-peat. He went and made money. Judd Bushler went and got paid. Everybody who played on that team with Michael Jordan went and made more money after that. Everybody who was around that man had more success after they dealt with Jordan than if they had never dealt with Jordan. Even Tim Grover, his trainer, went and wrote a book. Tim Grover's book, and shout out to Tim Grover, because I like the book Relentless, but Tim Grover's book is only that book because he was Michael Jordan's trainer. All right? It ain't because he was Kobe's trainer or Dwayne Wade's trainer, because he was Michael Jordan's trainer. All right? If I had been Michael Jordan's trainer, then I would have wrote that book. All right? Because he wrote that book based on what he saw Michael Jordan doing. And again, that's not a knock on Tim Grover. He was there and he earned his right, obviously, from what Michael Jordan did out there on that court. But y'all understand what I'm saying here. Everybody who was around Michael Jordan drafted off that success, and they got more success because they was around that guy. That's what happens when you are really that guy. Now, if you think being that guy means you got all the personal achievements, but nobody around you got any achievements, well, what did you actually achieve? If you're really that guy or that girl in any group, any organization, anything, everybody around you should be eating better because they were next to you than if they had been eating without being next to you. I heard this story once of, I forget who told the story, but it was Mike Tyson. He was hanging out with Birdman, not Birdman the basketball player, but Birdman the rapper, Baby from Cash Money. And Birdman was showing Mike Tyson all his stuff. Like, he had all these jewels, and Birdman, #1 stunner. So he's showing off all his jewelry and his rings and his cars and all this stuff. And Mike Tyson was looking at all the stuff that Birdman was showing him. And Mike Tyson said, "Yo, that's cool, Birdman, all the stuff you got. But yo, look at the dudes that's rolling with you." And Mike Tyson was pointing out the dudes that was rolling with Baby. None of them had any jewelry. None of them had all this cash. None of them had a whole bunch of cars. The only person in the whole crew who was shining, was Birdman, was Baby. Nobody else on the team was looking as good as him. And this is what a lot of people thought they took from Michael Jordan. I don't know if Birdman got his example from Michael Jordan, but I'm talking about especially with athletes, these days, is that in the last 20 years, they saw what Mike did individually, and they tried to emulate that, but they forgot about the team thing. Everybody on the team should be eating better because of you, not just you. Everybody follow what I said there. Point number 2. We talking here, those who came in the middle of this, talking about the things you should have got from Michael Jordan that a lot of people don't talk about. Number 2 thing, the business builds the brand. Your brand does not build your business. I want to let that one sink in. Today, every day, I hear from people who ask me about building a brand. I was on a live here just a couple days ago. Somebody was asking me, well, Dre, if I put videos on YouTube and build my brand as a basketball player, do you think that will help me get signed to play professional basketball overseas? The question doesn't even make sense. But I think the person who asked me really believed that that's what they need to do, build a brand and become known, so to speak, so they can play professional basketball. That has nothing to do with it. I was just listening to an interview of, y'all know Tony Gonzalez. He used to play football, the tight end, Hall of Famer. He has his own interview show, and he's not that great of an interviewer. Shout out to Tony Gonzalez. But he had one of my favorite athletes. Actually, one of the guys who was my favorite athlete before I even got into basketball was Deion Sanders. And I know a lot of people's favorite athletes. So I hear Deion on this interview, and one of the things that Deion said, because Tony asked him about his prime time persona and this brand that Deion built up, and Deion said, people got to understand, the reason my brand became my brand is because I was balling out on that field. Now, if I had called myself prime time and I had the jewelry and the sunglasses and the cars and I was making up names for myself and dancing and doing all that, but I wasn't performing out on that field, nobody would have cared about prime time. The reason people cared about prime time because I was balling out when I got out there on that field. And what a lot of athletes do, and this is Deion talking, he said a lot of athletes be so focused on building their brand and putting out content and having a team. And Deion was like, yo, if you don't ball, nobody cares about your brand. Nobody's going to watch your content, and your team ain't going to have nothing to do. They ain't going to have no work to do because you ain't balling. What are they going to do? What are they going to build content around? You haven't done anything. And what a lot of people took from, like, Michael Jordan is the reason, actually, and I'm not going to say they took it from this is just a fact. Michael Jordan's dominance in sports is the reason why athletes can build personal brands to this very day. Michael Jordan was the first athlete personal brand. Nobody was doing it before Mike. Now, Magic and Larry, they had their own sneaker, and it didn't even have their name on it. They didn't even have a logo, neither one. What's the Magic Johnson logo from basketball? What's the Larry Bird logo? Ain't one. What's the Dr. J logo? It ain't one. The first athlete with a logo and their own personal brand and a sneaker with their own name on it was Michael Jordan. The only reason that any athlete you can name in soccer, basketball, baseball, football, whatever, can do that today is because of Michael Jordan. Now, that's a good thing, right? Because it created a whole lot of more money and marketing and opportunity for everybody. But here's the thing, though. A lot of people these days think, and this is in the business world and in the sports world, they think that they need to build their brand because that will, for whatever reason, that's going to give them all the returns that they want. But what they have misconstrued is that what made Michael Jordan's brand so great was the fact that when he got on that court, he balled every single time. He always delivered every single time. Many people these days think, all right, well, let me just do some branding thing. And for many people, when they say brand, what they're talking about is let me just get popular. Let me do something that's going to make people notice me and see me and get me attention and followers and likes and comments and shares or whatever it is that you're after, but it has nothing to do with your actual performance. If you are not performing out there on that court, your brand means nothing. So those of you out there who are wondering, like, how do I get more likes and followers on Instagram, or how do I get more views on my YouTube, or how can I get more, any kind of vanity metric, any kind of stat that just makes it seem like more people know about you and makes you you feel like you're more popular, or it just fills your egotistical void. Understand that if you perform at what you do, then the brand will build itself. See, a brand is not, you don't have to focus on building a brand. People ask me about building a brand all the time. Dre, what do I got to do to build my brand? I'm like, no, don't worry about building your brand. Build a business. In sports, your business is performing out there on that court. In the business world, your business is finding your audience, the people who you want to serve, serving them at the highest possible level. You give them value, they give you value. That's what your business is. If you're a basketball player, your business is helping your team win as many games as possible. Whatever you need to do. If that means you need to grab 10 rebounds and you don't get any shots, then grab 10 rebounds. If it means that you got to wave the towel on the bench because you don't play, then wave the towel on the bench. If it means you got to score 30 every game, then go score 30 every game. Everybody's not going to have the same role, but understand that the business is doing your job and producing a result. We are in a results-based business, not a brand-based business, a results-based business. When you produce results, the brand will take care of itself. Again, the Michael Jordan brand, y'all got to understand something. Like I told you, I read every book Michael Jordan ever put out. I read every book somebody wrote about Michael Jordan. There's like 5 of those, and then there's like 3 or 4 he wrote himself. I read all those books. And Michael Jordan was always very clear that when he was playing, he did not focus on building his brand. Even though, here's what's crazy. Let me tell y'all what's crazy. We know these days we got damn near every NBA player has a brand, right? Some form of brand. Some of them can't even play, but they got a brand. And a lot of athletes spend a lot of time doing branding things when they ain't even done anything close to what Michael Jordan did on that court, right? But here's the thing that a lot of people don't get. Michael Jordan said very clearly in his book, he said, when I was playing, I never focused on building my brand. I didn't put any time into, I got to do this branding thing, or let me make sure I do my brand so I get seen on more commercials and make sure I have more, it wasn't any likes and followers and comments or social media back then. But Michael Jordan didn't focus on those things. Michael Jordan said, all I did was play basketball. My thing was play ball, work out with my trainer, be at practice every day, show up on that court 82 nights a year, plus the playoffs, and win as many games as possible. That was his whole deal. The branding stuff, the business stuff that Michael Jordan did, he had people in place on his team, and this is where a team comes in. He had his business people handle all the business stuff. So all the negotiations and the contracts and the commercials, all Michael Jordan did was show up to the commercial shoot, like, tell me when's the shoot, or the shoot's Wednesday at 10 o'clock, or I'm getting there Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to give y'all 30 minutes of my time, we're going to knock out this commercial, and then I'm getting back out of here because I got to get back to that court so I get ready to kick butt up and down the court next season. That's how Michael Jordan handled it. He never put his individual time that he could have been putting into ball into branding. He never did that. But now look at the players you see today, the athletes you see today, the business people, the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs, the influencers you see here today. People giving their whole day, people give their whole lives just to building their brand. What can I do to get known? What can I do to get more likes and followers and comments and engagement or whatever else y'all be going after? I don't even know. I don't even know all the stats. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you would instead just focus on building a business, meaning finding some people you can help and helping them as much as possible. Listen, the likes will come, the followers will come, the engagement will come, the views, the whatever else it is, whatever other stats they got these days, all of that stuff will come as a result of you handling your business. And this is the funny part. Michael Jordan spent no time on his brand, yet there's no athlete who's come around since him who's had a bigger brand than him. And he spent 0 time on his brand. Now, think of the athletes these days who have a brand. How much time they spending on building their brand and trying to get fans on their side and saying and doing stuff to get attention, which I call clout chasing. How many athletes you see doing this every day now? And how many of them have come anywhere close to Michael Jordan's accomplishments? But they trying to do the same thing Michael Jordan was doing. They think they're trying to do the same thing Michael Jordan was doing, but they're doing it backwards. I call this hustling backwards. I talked about it in this book right here called Working Your Game. We'll talk about this later. Hustling backwards is when you're working hard at something, but you don't even understand that you're working hard at something, but you're doing it in the opposite direction that it should actually be done. A lot of people start coming to game, and the first thing they want to do is build a brand. Like, yo, you haven't even established that you can perform in your business yet. What are you trying to build a brand for? What's your brand about? You haven't established that you can perform. Can you deliver a result? Can you help people get better? Is what you're doing worth anything for somebody else's investment? If you haven't proven that yet, why are you trying to build a brand? Your brand is just your reputation, what people think about you. Your business is what you actually deliver and that people are willing to pay for. If you got a business, you don't even need a brand. Trust me, I know some very productive, solidly productive business people who generate a lot of revenue, who you wouldn't even think they have much of a brand. They ain't got much. Some of y'all got more followers than some of the business people I know who do over 7 figures a year in revenue. Why? Because their focus is their business. The brand is secondary. If it even gets to that, you don't got to worry about building a brand. Everybody follow me. Do business, good business, and the brand will come. All right, the people who are buying from you, they'll find you, they'll follow you. All right, and who cares if they do or they don't? Doesn't matter. You making the money, right? Isn't the bottom line to get the money, get the result, produce the outcome? Isn't that the bottom line? Or if some of you is just more concerned with you'll trade everything you got to be famous and to be known and get a verified check, then listen, this conversation is not for you. I'm sorry, I should have told you that up front. But understand, handling your business in the main job, or you ain't got to worry about building a brand. All right, all you got to do is handle your business. Point number 3. For those of you who came in the middle of this, I will take all questions at the end. So if anybody got a question or comment on anything I'm saying, definitely hold it to the end. And I'm on point number 3 now. The topic, for those of you who came in the middle, what you should learn from Michael Jordan that a lot of people missed. Now, a lot of people call it the surface level thing. They didn't catch these deep things I'm talking about. Number 3, produce before you make demands. Produce outcomes. Produce in your business before you make a demand of what anybody has to do for you. You know, it's always funny to me when I see on ESPN or Twitter or something, some basketball player who has never even played in a playoff game, never even been on a winning team, is demanding a new contract or asking for a trade or pouting because their team has not been successful, as if they're not on the team. Like the team is the problem and they're not the problem, and they're the best player on the team. Players demanding trades and can't even win where they at, but they want to demand a trade to somewhere else, as if they're not the reason why the team is unsuccessful. And I never quite understood that. I mean, I do understand it because there's a whole new generation of people who use skinny jean wearing kids. And not shout out to everybody who wears skinny jeans, but it's a different generation. People got a different mindset. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, you haven't produced any results yet. You haven't come close to producing the type of results of people who had the power to do that back then but never did it. Here's the thing about Jordan. And he talks about that. You'll see it in the documentary when you watch it. For those of you who are going to watch it, he never made a demand to the ownership of the Chicago Bulls. He never made a demand to the general manager. He never demanded that they do anything, even though he had more power than any athlete in the world to demand whatever he wanted. He could have demanded whatever, and they would have had to do it. They would have had no choice. Or he would have walked and went somewhere else. They would have had no choice but to do it, but he never made the demand. Why? Because he understood that his bottom line was producing out on that court. It wasn't about demanding. It wasn't about, oh, let me show people how much muscle that I got off the court. Let me flex on them like that. It wasn't about that. But even though many people have picked up on the power that Jordan had, and they think this is the way they need to express it. Let me demand a trade. Let me demand I get some new teammates. Let me demand whatever it is people are out there demanding, but they haven't produced anything. I'm going to tell you what a businessman told me many years ago. He said, Dre, you cannot make demands until you are in demand. If you're not in demand, you can't make demands. And what does that mean? How do you get yourself to be, in demand in life? You got to develop a reputation for producing results. When you produce results, you can make demands. Michael Jordan's last 2 years in the NBA, his last 2 seasons, 2 one-year contracts, $30 million, $33 million. The reason why he could get that kind of money and adjust it for inflation, that's the most money any athlete, any basketball player rather, has made in salary in a season ever. So there's some players who make as a raw number more than that now, like Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. Several players got contracts for more than $33 million, but adjusted for inflation, Michael's is still the biggest. Somebody will probably pass it maybe one day. But the point is this. He was able to demand that kind of money, and they negotiated for that number. Like, he wanted actually a little bit more, and they split it down the middle because he was producing results. This dude was 5 for 5 in the NBA Finals. No player in the league who's out now has come close to that. Even the players who have retired ain't come close to that. Even Kobe lost a couple times in the finals. Jordan didn't lose in the finals. And once he started winning, he didn't lose again. At least in a full season, of course, we know. You must produce results. When you produce results consistently, then you can start making demands. And here's the thing. When you produce results consistently, you probably won't have to make too many demands because people are going to meet your demands before you even ask for them. They'll do what they need to do to make sure that you keep producing. If you're the best player on a failing team, any kind of team, a business team, a sports team, a family team, if you feel like you're the best player and that team is not successful, then whose fault is that? You can't blame your teammates. How can a player be on a team where How can a player be on a team that is not as successful as that player wants it to be, and then they're demanding a trade? Again, like, yo, ain't you on the team? All right, why don't you just step your game up and help the team be successful instead of complaining about the teammates? How about you look at you? I mean, you the best player on the team. The reason that I say that is because in the business world, any of you who follows any kind of business or corporate America, you know that when new leadership comes into an organization, so let's say some company, some corporation is failing, and the board of directors, they get together. Those are like the most important stakeholders. They get together and they decide we need to make some changes in this organization because obviously this company is not producing. What's the first thing they do? What's the first change that they make? They don't fire the male guy. They don't fire somebody in middle management. They don't fire the maintenance man. They fire the CEO. They fire the person on top because obviously that person's the problem. The leadership is the problem. It's not the rank and file that's causing the organization to fail. It's the leader that's causing the organization to fail. So before Jordan started winning them championships, he was getting the criticism. Like, yeah, you scoring all those points and you got all these individual accolades, but your team is not winning. And when Michael Jordan was hearing that criticism, probably by like his third year in the league, he started hearing that criticism. He's scoring 30-some points a game. And he's getting to the playoffs, but he's losing. And he heard that year after year after year until he finally won. Never once did Michael Jordan say, well, you know, the reason I'm losing is because my teammates ain't good enough. And, you know, Scottie Pippen ain't good yet. And this guy can't make an open shot. And this dude ain't grabbing no rebounds. And we need a new coach. Michael Jordan never said any of that. Michael Jordan, every time he lost, he said, what do I need to do to take my team to a higher level? Not what do they need to do. What do I need to do? Where am I coming up short? Where is my game lacking? It wasn't, oh, my team's coming up short. Oh, trade me. My team's coming up short. Oh, y'all got to give me more money. My team's coming up short. Oh, let me do an Instagram campaign to get more likes and comments and followers. It was, what do I need to do to make sure that I bring this team up to a higher level? I talked about that in a recent masterclass on my podcast. Those of you who are not connected to my podcast, you don't get that masterclass every day. Go to Working Your Game University, which is up here on Facebook, down there on Instagram in the pinned comment, Work on Your Game University. You never look for a reason to bail yourself out if you're the best. If you think you're the best person in the room, in your team, then you don't jump off the boat. All right, if the boat goes down, you're going down with the boat. You don't jump off the boat because you think, oh, this boat ain't going fast enough. Well, who's driving it? You the best player, right? So it's always going to fall back on you. Even if you think your teammates are weak, even if you think the people in your organization are not good enough, then, well, do what you need to do to rearrange things, but you can't jump off that boat because it's your boat. Point number 4. The topic for those of you who came in the middle of this is things you should have gotten out of watching Michael Jordan or whatever you know about Michael Jordan that you probably won't hear other people talk about because they only talk about the surface things or the sensational things. And I'm sure after this doc comes out, people are going to be talking about the little sound bites and the quotables because most people skim the surface. But I'm trying to go deep with y'all so y'all understand the things you should really get from Mike. It's not just about the sneakers and the commercials and the branding. It's much deeper than that. Point number 4, winning requires no explanation. Now, there's a reason why, for those of you who are younger, all right, those of y'all who didn't see Michael Jordan play, you weren't old enough when he was playing, or some of y'all wasn't even born when Michael Jordan was playing. There's a reason why Michael Jordan ain't on Instagram. He's not on Twitter. He's not on any social media, even though if he got on, 100 million people will follow him probably the first day, right? But he's not on any social media. Michael Jordan hardly does any interviews. The only interview he did before this thing came out to promote it was on Good Morning America with Robin Roberts. And what's they going to ask him on Good Morning America? Nothing. It was a very vanilla, surface level interview, and it wasn't even anything worth watching. The only reason people watched it was Michael Jordan, and he never does any interviews. He's never around too much. Michael Jordan doesn't do any of that stuff. I don't know personally why. I don't know. Mike never asked him. But the thing is this. He doesn't have to because his reputation and his track record speaks for itself. He don't have to tell you what he did. He don't have to explain about any season of his career. He don't have to come up with some story or try to, control the narrative of anything about his career. Ain't no narrative. See, narrative is for losers. All right, narrative is only for people that lost. Because narrative means a story, right? Ain't no story when you win. When you win, it ain't no story. When you win, it's just, all right, I won. He won. There's the trophy. There's a picture of him with the trophy. There it is, etched in the record books. You pull it up, Wikipedia, championship. Ain't no story. Only people got to tell stories are the people who lose. So the point here, when I'm telling y'all point number 4, winning requires no explanation, Michael Jordan didn't have to put out this documentary. Any of y'all read any of the articles around this doc know that they filmed this. Obviously, they filmed it in 1998. They just putting it out now 22 years later. Why? Michael Jordan he was never excited about putting it out. He never really wanted to put it out. They said that they never even got to a meeting with Michael Jordan until he finally said yes, which was like 4 years ago in the summer, right before the NBA draft. The Cavs had just won the championship. And that's when he finally said yes, and then they went to work on it, and now 4 years later it's finally coming out. And I heard the director talking on Bill Simmons' podcast. He said, we're still not done with all 10 episodes. So they're still editing episodes 9 and 10 now, and they're just starting with episode 1 right now. Because I guess it just takes that much work to edit a documentary. Not for me, but those of you who know editing, video editing, you probably know why that takes so long. The thing is this. Michael Jordan didn't have to put this documentary out because he don't have to tell a story. No, the only people, again, you ain't got to really tell your story when you didn't succeed. When you succeed, your story can speak for itself. It's in black and white. Y'all know Bill Russell, right? Won all those championships with the Boston Celtics. He said, early in my career, I realized, as people asked him, what was your motivation to win so many championships? He said, early in my career, I realized that these awards and trophies like MVP, All-Star Game, All-NBA team, all this stuff, he said, I realized that it's all very subjective and opinion-based. And mind you, Bill Russell played back in the 50s, and he played like before the civil rights movement, kind of, and maybe a little bit during it. So at that time, being a black guy living in a city like Boston wasn't the most welcoming city to black people back then. Bill Russell there was probably some prejudice against him, despite the fact that he was so damn good at basketball. So he said, my decision was, instead of trying to sway people's opinions, like branding, trying to sway people's opinions with your brand, Bill Russell said, I'm going to just go out and win as many games as possible. Because if I win every game that I'm playing, that goes down as historical fact, and it doesn't go down as somebody's opinion. And I think Bill Russell succeeded at that. Bill Russell got 11 championships, for those of you who don't know. Michael Jordan did pretty much the exact same thing. The difference between Bill Russell and Michael Jordan is that Michael Jordan played in the 80s when people of color were much more not respected, but welcomed by mainstream media. And Michael Jordan was able to get those personal accolades like the MVPs and the All-Stars and people saying he was the best player, while at the same time getting all the wins like Bill Russell did. Well, Bill Russell got more wins, obviously 11-6, but Michael Jordan was able to get those wins, and he had the opinion of the world. We're all saying, yo, this guy's the best player. Whereas with Bill Russell, he said, no, a lot of times people didn't call me the best player. But the posterity has said Bill Russell's the guy. That's why they named the MVP of the NBA Finals after Bill Russell. It's called the Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP Award, or whatever they call it. They named it after Bill Russell because that man, all he did was win. Shout out to DJ Khaled. When you win, you ain't got to explain nothing. You ain't got to tell no story. You ain't got to try to clear anything up. You ain't got to go back and forth with anybody. You don't have to do any interviews. You ain't got to get on social media. Listen, only the losers got to explain themselves. So this documentary that's going to come out, of course, it hasn't come out just yet. It's coming out, I think, 9 o'clock is the first episode. I don't think it's an explanation by Michael Jordan of what the team did. I think it's just a revelation. They're just letting you know, look, this is what happened. And how you feel is how you feel. And I'm sure there are going to be some people who criticize Jordan because everybody knows he had a reputation for being very tough on teammates and opponents, and he's probably verbally abusive to some people in the process of going after his W's. I'm sure you're going to notice that through the 10 parts of this documentary. But Michael Jordan don't have to explain it. He ain't got to go apologize to nobody. He ain't got to tell people, well, I shouldn't have said it that way, or let me explain to you why I did it that way. He ain't got to say anything. All you can do is put it out, and you can feel however you want to feel. But the bottom line is, at the end of all this, what's the bottom line going to be? Those 6 rings. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Those rings. He ain't got to explain nothing. Now, if somebody who didn't win like he won, they told their story, now they got to explain it. They got to create a narrative. Or let me tell you why you should think this way. Let me tell you why your opinion should be this way. The opinion doesn't matter. Like Bill Russell said, I rendered everybody's opinion irrelevant by winning as many games as possible. Now they got to name the trophy after me because all I did was win. Now, all that being said, I'm going to recap these 4 points and I'm going to take questions. So anybody got a question, go ahead and post it in the comments section. If y'all came in the middle of this, we're talking about the things that you should learn from Michael Jordan's legacy and his example on and off the court, how you can apply it on and off the court, even if you only have known up to this point the surface level stuff that people talk about. And I think I'm thinking that much of what you're going to see in this docuseries is going to tell you surface level stuff. You may get into some deeper stuff, but you really got to think about this stuff. The stuff that I'm telling you, these are things you really got to think about. Nobody's going to hand this to you. Well, I just handed it to you, but you really got to think about it to really understand what you really should get out of the Michael Jordan thing. Is not just, oh, well, win a game and score a bunch of points and get the championship. Of course, everybody wants to do that. But what are the foundational pieces to go beneath that? That's what I try to give you here today. So point number one, the success of the team. Success of the team serves every individual person, not the other way around. You don't serve the team first by serving. You don't serve the team by serving yourself first. You serve the team, and everybody gets served because the team is winning. When the team is winning, everybody eats. Point number two. The business builds the brand. The brand does not build the business. When you take care of your business, you will build the brand automatically. You ain't got to try to build the brand. The brand will build itself. Point number three, produce before you make demands. You got to be in demand in order to make demands. And the only way you can become in demand is to produce results. If you do not produce results, you do not have the position to make any demands about anything. And number four, winning requires no explanation. Only people who got to control the narrative and tell stories and tell everybody what their opinion should be and explain themselves are people who lose. All right, it's only when people mess up that they got to explain themselves, right? I think Kevin Hart did a documentary called Let Me Explain, right? Comedy show. And it was comedy. But one of the reasons he did it because he had made some mistakes. So he had to explain himself because he had done some things he shouldn't have did. He had took some L's. When you don't take any L's, you ain't got to explain nothing. That's the whole point. So let me see what we got in the comment section. Facebook, y'all got any questions, go ahead and post it. We're going to start over here on Instagram and see what we got in the question section. Before I get to that, and tell you about these two books. Both of these books right here are free. I've already paid for these books. I will ship them to you worldwide. Physical books, anywhere that you live. Let me tell you what they are. This right here is The Mirror of Motivation. The self-guide to self-discipline. I wrote this book so you could be who you need to be in life, so you could do what you need to do and live the life that you actually want to live, having the things that you want to have, which means you will separate yourself from 99% of people in the world who spend their whole lives working hard, but never achieving anything because they don't know the process of getting there. I explain that process to you in this book and teach you how to work yourself through the process. That's why it's called The Mirror of Motivation. Get this book free by going to mirrormotivation.com. Tell me where to ship it. We ship this book to you worldwide. This right here is the Overseas Basketball Blueprint. I wrote this book so that if you're in a situation like me, anything similar, I came out of a Division III college where I had walked on, had no connections, no agent, no game film, no anything, no foot in the door to playing overseas, hustled my way into a 9-year pro career. I wrote this book so that you don't have to go through all the errors that I went through. I went through a lot of trial and error. I took all the error out, and I just tell you the good stuff that you need to do and the things that you need to know so you can put together a career and travel the world, play basketball for a living, get paid, see the world, and all you got to do every day is play basketball. If there's a job better than that, I want to know what it is. It ain't no job better than playing basketball for a living. Get this book free by going to balloverseas.com. Tell me where to ship it. We just ordered 50 more of these books last week, so we can get these out to you as quickly as possible. This is at balloverseas.com. It's the Overseas Basketball Blueprint. If you want to play basketball overseas, even if you have no connections, don't know anybody, don't have any way of getting your foot in the door, have no idea where to get started, this is the book that will tell you everything you need to know. That's why it's called The Blueprint. Overseas Basketball Blueprint, so that you can do what 99.9% of people who play basketball never do, which is get paid to play basketball. All that being said, now let's see what we got going on in the comments section. So the topic once again today was the lessons you should have got from Michael Jordan, from the legacy of Michael Jordan, the legacy of Michael Jordan, the idea of Michael Jordan. Trade on Purpose said Ron Harper was 20 points per game, but took a step back for the sake of the team. Well, he took a step back for the sake of he was on teams with Michael Jordan. And he was 20 points per game on somebody else's team. But yes, that is true. And he was a little bit older as well at that time. He was older. So he did what he had to do. Coffee the Great says that's why LeBron is the GOAT. He could dominate the game while getting everyone involved. Now, I wouldn't say LeBron is the GOAT. LeBron got some L's that Michael Jordan ain't got. And, LeBron wore number 23 for a reason. You can't be better than the guy you are chasing or emulating, in my opinion. But I get what you're saying. Matt Metcalf was good. Clore said Devin Booker is an example. Maybe. Yeah, 6 for 6. Fritz Grits, exactly. Coffee said, damn, sounds like Michael Jordan read The Mirror of Motivation. LOL. He probably did. I think he did. Eyeball says, my favorite pair of Jordans. I like the 13s, and I always be mixing up the numbers. I like the 13s, and I think it's the 11s and 15s. 13s, 11s, 15. Like the first 7, everybody likes them. So I try to give you something that's different. Everybody likes the first 7 Jordans, but 13s, 11s, and 15s I like. Chris Lashley says, what's your favorite book about or written by Michael Jordan? My favorite book about Jordan, my favorite book written by Jordan is called For the Love of the Game. And that one was written by Jordan. It was like this big picture book. It was like the size of when you get a yearbook from high school, it was like a little bit bigger size, but it was a picture book. I don't know if it's still in print because I looked it up on Amazon years ago and nobody had it. So I don't know what happened to that, if they just took it out of print or what. But it's called For the Love of the Game. It's a picture book, and they made a smaller size later on. But if you can find that book, that's a great book. And it wasn't that long as a book you could read in one sitting, but it has these great photos, but it's Michael in his own words. So I like that one. And the best book about Jordan, I would say Lazenby's book. Roland Lazenby wrote one about him, and David Halberstam wrote Playing for Keeps. Lazenby's was called Michael Jordan, The Life. So either one of those. They both tell a lot of the same stories, but I would read both of them. If you're a Michael Jordan fan, I'll read both. And then when it came to Michael's mindset, Tim Grover, Relentless. That's basically a Michael Jordan mindset manifesto. He could have called it that, and it would have been the same thing. That's what that book is, Relentless by Tim Grover. That's the most recent one. But I liked all of them, actually, because, I mean, you can learn something from any book. Even Michael Leahy's book, which was called When Nothing Else Matters. It was about when he was with the Wizards. And it ain't really about what he did on the court, but it was really just about his mindset and the way he conducted himself. And you can learn a lot from that book as well. Sly Jr. 007, what up? KB35, yeah, that's at balloverseas.com. I got you. Datuba says, I live in Germany. Is overseas blueprint useful for me? Do you want to play professional basketball? So people wondering if this book is useful for them, you just need to answer one question. This is a decision tree. All right, do you want to play professional basketball? If the answer is yes, then you need to get this book at balloverseas.com. If the answer is no, then you do not need this book. If you want to play professional basketball, you need this book. If you don't want to play, you don't need the book. All right, simple as that. Eyeball said the 4s are cold. I'll be forgetting which ones is which. If you put like 3 different Jordans in front of me, I probably couldn't even tell you what number they are. But they're ones that I like. When I see them, I know I like them. Coffee the Great said, did I idolize Jordan when I played basketball? No. When I was playing in the 90s, when Jordan was playing, players that I liked I liked the New York Knicks as a team. I didn't like any individual. I didn't try to play like anybody. I liked Reggie Miller, actually. So it's funny. I liked the Knicks and Reggie Miller at the same time. Because that was my first skill. When I first started playing ball, the one thing that I could do, the first thing I was good at was just standing at the three-point line and shooting a three-pointer. I couldn't dribble, drive, grab rebounds, play defense, pass. The only thing I could do was just stand and hit threes. So the only guy who was doing that then that I knew about was Reggie Miller. He wasn't the only, but he was the most prominent guy. So I actually liked Reggie Miller and the Knicks at the same time. So figure that one out. Chris said, I read Michael Jordan, The Life. Yeah, that was Halberstam. Yeah, I like that book. Brandon Joseph says, what was that 2-pill example with cyanide that he was involved in? Trying to remember. Well, that's going to be in the documentary, but I talked about it in this book. It's a section in the book that says, don't let the 10% hold you back. Brandon, if you have this book, look for the section that says, don't let the 10% hold you back. I talked about that in this book. So any of y'all who watched that Michael Jordan doc, if you read Work on Your Game, you will notice that there's a Michael Jordan story in this book that's in that documentary, and some people are hearing that story for the first time. But Jordan told that story. The reason I knew that story, and people think that's being revealed for the first time, but it's not. He told that story in that picture book that I just mentioned that came out in like 1999 called For the Love of the Game. He told that story in that book, but that book's out of print, so that's why nobody knows about it. But he told that story so the story was, for those of you who don't know the story, Michael Jordan broke his foot his second year in the NBA. He missed most of the season. And near the end of the season, he went to the doctor. The team doctor said, Mike, is only a 10% chance that you'll re-break the foot. You're 90% no healthy. It's 90% chance you won't break it. So that's what it is. So Michael Jordan, of course, the doctor told the Bulls management and ownership, all right, there's only a 10% chance he could re-break the foot. Mike couldn't come back, but y'all got to know it's a 10% chance. And the Bulls, and Michael was like, all right, perfect, I'm ready to go play. And the Bulls ownership said, well, no, we don't want you to play because you might break your foot. And the owner asked the doctor, if that 10% chance happens and he actually breaks his foot, what does that mean? And the doctor said, if he breaks his foot again, and on that 10% chance, he will never play basketball again. His career will be over. So the owner of the Bulls was like, well, look, Mike, we know it's a 90% chance you won't break it, but if you do break it, your career is over. Like, you got to understand the risk-reward ratio here. And Michael Jordan said, forget it. Why are y'all talking about a 10% chance of failing when it's a 90% chance that I'm going to succeed? So they're going back and forth, back and forth. And the Bulls management said to Michael, well, what if you had a headache and I gave you a vial of Advil and there's 10 pills in there, but 9 of them will cure your headache, but one of them might kill you, but you don't know which one it is. Would you reach in there and grab one of those pills knowing that there's a 10% chance you might kill yourself? And Michael said, that's a great analogy, but it depends on how bad the headache is. That was Michael's answer. And for those of you who don't know the rest of the story, he played in the games after he argued with the Bulls management. He did play in the games, and that was the same year when he scored 63 points against the Boston Celtics. That was in the playoffs. So the Bulls were in the playoff hunt. I think they were the 8th. They were trying to get the 8th seed in the playoffs. So the Bulls weren't that good, but they were okay. So they got the 8th seed. Jordan played in the rest of the games for the regular season, not that many. They made the 8th seed in the playoffs, and they played, this is 1986, they played against the Boston Celtics. And the 86 Celtics they go down in history as one of the greatest teams of all time. So you say those Bulls teams that won the championships, you got, of course, the Warriors who, well, until they lost against the Cavs 3-1, was one of the greatest teams. And the 86 Celtics are one of the greatest teams in the history of basketball for people who are historians of the game. Now, I wasn't old enough to have watched the 86 Celtics, but the Bulls played against the 86 Celtics in the first round of the playoffs. They got swept 3-0, but Jordan had 49 in game one, and he had 63 in game two. And that's when Larry Bird said, I think that's God disguised as Michael Jordan, and that's when his stars started to blow up. And then next season, Jordan averaged like 37 points a game. And the rest is history. So, Brandon, hopefully that answers your question. But that's all going to be in the documentary. I'm sure they're going to cover that. Eyeball says, anyway, I can see clips of you playing. Is that a serious question? Go on YouTube.com and type my name in. You can see as much of me as you want. All right? Probably more than you thought. A lot of clips of me playing. Chris says, which Bulls 3 peat was more impressive in my opinion? Probably the last one because they were older. So you don't have as much energy when you get older. So, and they had injuries and stuff. So, of course, Mike had the flu game / food poisoning game, whatever it was that year. 98, Scottie Pippen had or was it 97? I think 97, Scottie Pippen had the bad back. No, it was 98, Scottie Pippen had the bad back. And the beginning of the year, he broke his foot. So he missed a bunch of the games. That's going to be in the documentary. Scottie Pippen missed the first 2 months of the season in that season because he had foot surgery right before a training camp because he was mad at Bulls management. And then he hurt his back in the finals. So Scottie Pippen only had like 8 points in the last game when Jordan hit that shot. Scottie Pippen only had 8 points because he was injured, not because he wasn't good. But I would say the second one just because they were older. And in the end, the Pacers damn near beat them. All right, the Pacers took them to 7 games that year. And we know Reggie pushed off on that shot he made in Game 6. But, hey, they fought their way through. So I would say that just because of that. Question is, where can you get that hat? Send me a DM. I don't put the hats out on display. I don't really promote merch like that. But if you send me a DM, I can tell you how to get the hat. Coffee said, why Jordan chose Nike over Adidas? Adidas didn't make him an offer. That's what I heard. I got 5 minutes to take questions. Mike said in his book, he said Adidas never made him an offer. Nike made him an offer, and he told Adidas, it's either Adidas or Converse, one of them. I can't remember which one, but Adidas or Converse, Michael liked them better. I think it was Converse. I'm not sure it was Adidas, but whichever one it was. He told them, just come close to the offer that Nike made me, and I'm going to sign with y'all. But they never made an offer. Can you imagine that? They never made Michael Jordan an offer to be an endorser. So he ended up signing with Nike, and as we know, the rest is history. Michael Jordan's I know the flu game was in 97. Yeah, and Pip, bad back in 98, like I said. But the flu game, and, well, 96, they were pretty good. Everybody seemed pretty healthy. 97, you had the flu game. 97, the Bulls were on fire. They were on fire that year. 98, it was the last dance, running on fumes. Phil was gone, Dennis was gone, Mike was gone, Scotty was gone. Management management and the players didn't like each other. Phil Jackson hated management. So he had a lot going on. So this is going to be a very interesting documentary. I know that. All right, we got like 2 minutes left. So I'm going to give y'all one more review of what these books are. What would Prime Jordan average in today's game? I don't know what he would average, but he would be damn good. That's what I know. Now, these 2 books, MirrorMotivation.com, the self-guide to self-discipline so you can live the life that 99% of people never live, because most people don't know the formula for living the life they actually want to live. They think if they just work, everything's going to work out, and that doesn't happen. And y'all know somebody who's just always working, but they don't really have the kind of success they want to have? It's because they don't know what they're doing. If you read this book, I'll show you how to tell yourself what you're doing by going to MirrorOfMotivation.com. And this right here, BallOverseas.com, the Overseas Basketball Blueprint. If you want to play professional basketball overseas, all right, this is not the NBA basketball blueprint. If you want to play overseas basketball, all right, this is the book to get it. BallOverseas.com. BallOverseas.com, get the Overseas Basketball Blueprint. And that's that. All right, so they about to cut me off anyway here because you only get 1 hour. I'm almost right at an hour. So everybody, I appreciate your time. I'm going live every day, 6:15 p.m. I will be going live again tomorrow, 6:15 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going live every day. If you got both of these books already, you need something else to read, get this book right here, Work on Your Game. Use the pro athlete mindset to dominate your game in business, sports, and life. You can get this at workonyourgamebook.com. And if you want to learn from me every day, get my free daily masterclass. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not free. My daily masterclass, you get your first 2 weeks of access for free. And if you want to keep it, you keep it. If you don't want to keep it, you can cancel. Go to Work on Your Game University right here, workonyourgameu.com on Instagram, and it's right there in the description on Facebook. I'll see everybody tomorrow, 6:15 p.m. Work on Your Game. We out of here.